I bought a used GPU from AliExpress. Was it worth it? Well, let's find out. Oh, oh, just a sec. Hi everybody, TechDweeb here. As you know, at this point in history, getting your hands on a decent new graphics card could be a bit like swimming in shark-infested waters. You don't have much to gain, and you'll probably have a shark bite your foot off. Actually, I guess that analogy doesn't work. I'm trying to say that buying GPUs right now sucks. Nothing's in stock, anywhere, except the low-end cards like the GT 1030, which is actually a decent stopgap solution in my opinion. I actually made a video about the GT 1030, there's a link in the description below. So if the GT 1030 is the only card you could get at a decent price, then that's the bar. You could get a GT 1030 for about $110, and they're in stock. So, with that in mind, if you're like me and you like building computers, you're always on the lookout for graphics cards, because you need graphics cards to build computers. Maybe you want something that's a bit better than a GT 1030, but don't want to have to resort to paying scalper prices, because scalpers suck. Say it with me everyone, scalpers suck. Let's say we want to spend, I don't know, 100, maybe 150 bucks. Let's go shopping. Newegg. Nope. Best Buy. Nothing really here for us. Okay, let's look at the used market. eBay. Oh, sheesh. Facebook? Nope. Other places? And that's a big nope. Okay, so we can't find anything. I guess we'll have to shell out some cash to the scalpers just to get anything decent, huh? Actually, before we do that, let's check in one more place. AliExpress. Oh wow. Well, alright then. So, you can buy used GPUs from China. Nothing sketchy about that. Nope, nothing at all. What's the worst that could happen? Speaking of which, this is the GTX 750 Ti that I bought from China. So, let me be your guinea pig. I can open this up, test it out, look at how it performs, and we'll decide once and for all if buying a used GPU from China is a good thing or a bad thing. So why are there so many used GPUs for sale on AliExpress anyways? Well, long story short, they're from internet cafes. See, many Asian countries, China mostly to be honest, they love their internet cafes, and I don't blame them. Back when I was in school, there was an internet cafe in downtown Toronto called the Grey Region. I couldn't afford a gaming PC back then. This was back in like 2001, but I used to go down to the Grey Region on Friday nights and pretty much live there until I needed to go back to school on Monday morning. Me and my friends would go there and play Counter-Strike and Team Fortress Classic on their gaming PCs. We played games all day and ate junk food and gained 75 pounds, and it was just so much fun, you guys. You have no idea. Oh yeah, the 750 Ti. Yeah, so there's a decent chance that this came from an internet cafe. The internet cafes in China have a high turnover of GPUs because they buy lower end GPUs at very low prices because these things are made in China. And esports titles are super popular there, so they don't need fancy GPUs. And then, when they upgrade their GPUs, they can sell these on sites like AliExpress to dweebs like us. And that's what they did. To me. I got this guy as part of a bundle, because you could buy entire make-your-own computer kits from AliExpress, and I wanted to do a video on if you could make an all AliExpress gaming PC. That video will be coming soon, so get subscribed so you don't miss it. But you could buy this GPU by itself for $110. And considering that a GT 1030 is about $110 plus tax, there's no tax or import fee for this 750 Ti, and considering that this thing should give us about 25% more performance than a GT 1030, that's a compelling choice for GPU-starved tech dweebs who just want a decent budget GPU for a budget build and don't want to have to sell their mom's jewelry to be able to afford one. So what do we have here? Well, let me tell you all about it. The GTX 750 Ti is part of the NVIDIA GeForce 700 series released in 2013. Most of the cards from the 700 series were based on the Kepler architecture, the successor to the Fermi microarchitecture, which had many advanced new features such as boosting of the GPU clock, increased power efficiency, TXAA anti-aliasing support, and many more advanced features that I don't understand or care enough about to mention. The 750 and 750 Ti, however, were the only cards from the 700 series to be part of the Maxwell generation, which had all the advanced features of the Kepler series, as well as more advanced power efficiency and probably a bunch of other fancy stuff too. The GTX 750 Ti is an energy-efficient entry-level card that offers great performance for the price, and even today it can hold its own in many modern games. It features 640 CUDA cores, a 1085 MHz boost clock, 2 GB of DDR5 memory, support for up to DirectX 11, and this model is a single fan version with DVI, DisplayPort, and HDMI video output, and it smells like a Chinese internet cafe. Unfortunately, however, NVIDIA recently stopped supporting most of its Kepler architecture after Game Ready Driver 388.71. That's bad news for most 700 series owners, but not for owners of the 750 and the 750 Ti, because these cards weren't built on the Kepler architecture, they're Maxwell architecture cards, which means for the time being at least, they can benefit from the most recent driver updates from NVIDIA. So the 750 Ti continues to be a viable choice for budget-conscious gamers even to this day, and we hope for many years to come. The 750 Ti. At least it's not a GT 710. I intended to make this a short video. I'm failing miserably as usual, so I guess we should get this little guy into my testing rig and make sure that it actually works. We'll test it in some older and low-end games, and then we'll test it in some newer games. Our test setup is running an i7 10700K with 32 GB, 3200 MHz RAM, and we're running off an NVMe SSD. I wouldn't recommend building a system like this to pair with a 750 Ti. You can probably get the same performance from a i3 2200 or something similar, but we like to eliminate any possible bottlenecks while testing so we can see how this card actually performs. I'm expecting this guy to handle older and simpler games at 1080p, medium settings, mid-range games maybe 900 or 720p with medium or low settings, and a few games probably won't run well, or even at all, to be honest. The only way to know is to try it out. Well, here we are running. You can see the GPU Z info there, and I decided to put a little bit of an overclock, just a little 100 MHz on the core and 400 MHz on the memory. See how this does. Starting off, we have Half-Life 2, running at 1080p max settings. I ran this the video I did recently where I was testing an old GPU, the 9800 GT. And it performed good there, but not nearly this good. Look at that, we're getting 285 FPS average. Yeah, this is an old game, and you'll probably need a decent CPU to get these FPS. Not that you need these FPS, but if you want them, you should have a CPU that can push this kind of frame rate. Oh, watch this. This is crazy. You see this guy? He hits me, and then he breaks his table. And then I take this piece of wood. I've never done this before. I was just goofing around for the benchmark. The wood makes this door stay open. These guys are just staring at me like they don't know what to do. Like I'm not supposed to be here. There's nothing really going on, but I just thought that was funny. Goofing around with the benchmark, and I figured out how to get back here. This is an old game, obviously. You don't need a good PC to run this game. I just tossed it in because I was using it in my recent video, and kind of cool to see an old game. You know, you used to need an amazing system to play this game at a good frame rate with good graphics, and here we are on this $100 GPU from China, just blowing it away. Yeah, I know it's an old game, but it's still such a good game. If you haven't played Half-Life 2, you really do need to play Half-Life 2. No excuse, because it'll run on pretty much any potato computer you can put together these days. And next up, we got Tomb Raider. This is the first of the reboot series from 2013, running at 1080p. This is on max settings, and we got a 72 FPS average. There's a couple little graphical glitches. You'll probably see them here in the footage a little bit flickering in the shadows. It doesn't happen all the time. It's pretty rare, but it does happen. So there's something up with the maybe the old drivers or just the old architecture of this card of this game. But other than that, it runs great. This is a bit of an older game, so I kind of expected it would run really good. So games from this year are pretty much where this card shines. This card does amazing in these slightly older games that aren't super old. Obviously, they're still totally worth playing. And this is a great game. If you haven't played this one, highly recommend it. This is one of my favorite series on the PC, to be honest. Definitely gets the Tech Dweeb recommendation, even if you only have a 750 Ti, and if you have to deal with a little bit of flickering in the shadows. There might be a way to fix that if you mess with the settings a little bit. I didn't bother though. Continuing on with Tomb Raider, we're moving up to Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This was released just a few years ago, 2018 I think. 900p medium settings, and we're going to average 34 FPS. This is probably my favorite game to benchmark. I always test this game on every card. It usually runs pretty well. There's lots of settings options. You can get it looking amazing, or you can get it looking, decent. Even on like the lowest cards and the lowest settings, it still looks amazing as long as you can keep the shadows on. And this is one of those games, you can play with a controller, and you don't really need the highest FPS when you're playing with the controller. Lots of these games run at lower FPS on the consoles, so it feels pretty natural to play a game like this at these FPS, as long as you're using a controller, and you don't mind running at a little bit of a lower resolution with lower settings. Still, looks really good in my opinion, and it's a really good game, totally worth playing. Highly recommend this one. This is my go-to benchmark, and I recommend it for that too. And of course, no game benchmark collection video would be complete without the most famous game benchmark of all time. Everyone wants to know how GTA 5 performs on this card. Well, here you go. We're running at 1080p with high settings, 83 FPS average. Obviously, the game looks really good at these settings and this kind of FPS, which just goes to show you how amazingly optimized it is. And it's a very popular game to play too. Lots of people still play this game to this day. Not just single player, but multiplayer too. GTA 5 Online is super popular on Steam. Lots of PC gamers are PC gamers just because of this game. They just play on the PC because they want to play GTA 5 Online. I always have a really fun time being totally random, doing just, going on berserk when I'm doing these benchmark videos. When I play this game, I don't go this crazy. I'm a lot more level-headed, but you gotta let loose sometimes, and what better time to let loose and cause some mayhem than when you're doing a benchmark. And moving on to Far Cry Primal here, 900p medium settings. We're gonna get 52 FPS average. Obviously, this is a first-person shooter that you're going to play with the mouse and keyboard, so, you want a bit of a higher FPS. You can lower the settings even more if you wanted to get even higher than this. I think this is a good sweet spot. It's just such a nice-looking game. I don't like to degrade the graphics too much to play this one, so I'm okay with a little bit of a lower FPS. I guess single-player first-person shooters are a little bit more forgiving for the FPS when you don't have to be competitive. Unless you're going to start getting into some competitive Far Cry Primal, leaderboards or something like that. Maybe you could have competitions to hunt the most deer or woolly mammoths or something. So with that in mind, I guess the 750 Ti wouldn't be the best choice if you're going to do some competitive Far Cry Primal, but for all of us single-player Far Cry Primal players, the 750 Ti would do a good job. I don't really know what I'm talking about, you guys. I just wanted to show some Far Cry Primal because I just love this game so much. I include it in pretty much every benchmark video that I make. Just such a nice looking game. There's so much foliage, and it's in the Far Cry 4 engine, I think. One of those games that just looks a lot better than you would expect considering the specs of the hardware and the settings and the FPS you get. Also, I love caveman games, so, there's that. Next up we got Resident Evil Village. This is a new one in the benchmark suite, and I'm really happy I've included this one. This is the first game I have that has access to FSR, which is AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution. It's basically like a way to run the game at a lower resolution, and there's some sort of sharpening type algorithm that makes it crisp. So we're running at 1080p, with low settings, but we put the FSR up to performance, so we're actually getting a playable frame rate here, which is kind of crazy considering we're playing with this old, cheap $110 GPU from AliExpress, and we're able to play this brand new game, and it looks great too. We're getting 38 FPS average by the end of this run. I wasn't expecting much going into this game, to be honest. This was a pleasant surprise to get these kind of FPS. It really is an amazing looking game. There's only one little part I'm showing here in the benchmark video. There's a lot more to see, and I didn't want to give any spoilers or anything, but this is a really beautiful looking game. And even running at the performance FSR setting, even at low settings, the game looks really good. Surprisingly good, considering the power and the price of this GPU. I really wish more developers would include FSR options in their graphics options. I wish this would just become standard because it's such a good way to get amazing performance at a lower end hardware and still have the game look really good. You know, as you can see from the video, it looks pretty darn good in my opinion. Now we're going on to The Witcher 3. Sorry, I'm jumping around a bit in the timeline here. I guess I probably should have put these in the order that they came out, so you see older games and then newer games. This definitely isn't a newer game, but it's sort of a medium game. It's not super old. I don't know why I didn't like this. I hope it's not annoying. Anyway, we're playing The Witcher 3 here, 900p, medium settings. We're gonna get 44 FPS average. This game looks good at 900p, looks really good at medium settings, really playable at kind of medium-ish frame rates, even if you're playing with a mouse and keyboard. These third-person RPG-style action games, you don't really need a crazy FPS for them. You just want a playable frame rate, and the graphics are so good, you just kind of want to get them as good as they possibly can, so you can soak that up while you're playing. This is one of my favorite all-time games. The story in this game is so amazing. They even like the side quests. Some of the side quests in this game, the story of these little side quests is better than the main story in lots of other games. I actually read all the novels of The Witcher as well, and they really feel like the same thing. The side quests in the video game feel like little chapters from the book. The book is basically a collection of little short stories anyway, so they kind of feel side questy already as they are. It's a really unique world, it's a really unique take on the fantasy genre, and being a little bit of an older game at this point, it runs on such a wide variety of hardware, and it still looks amazing to this day. It feels like a modern game to me. Every time I fire this up to benchmark it, no matter what the settings are, it feels like a modern game, which is saying a lot. And now, the game all the kids are playing, including me, Fortnite. We're running at 1080p with a 60% resolution scale, which basically brings it down to 720p. Medium settings, this is gonna get a 77 FPS average. Very competitive FPS experience in my opinion. You know, with these competitive games you want to get pretty high FPS. Obviously you don't need a crazy FPS if you have only a 60Hz monitor. 75Hz monitor would be ideal for these kind of settings. I know lots of people like to turn the settings way down and run it in like performance mode, but I hate doing that. It just looks so much better with the shadows on and stuff, and I know how good it looks doesn't really matter for being really good at the game. You kind of want the biggest competitive advantage. I don't care about that, to be honest. I don't play games to be the most amazing gamer in the server or anything like that. I want to be able to hold my own, but I want to be able to enjoy the experience too. Kind of a cartoony game, kind of silly and lighthearted, and I like it. I like the way it looks, and I like living in this world and running around and, you know, seeing the sights and stuff. I don't need to make it as simple as it can to give me that competitive advantage, because, you know, that's not super important to me. Running a game, 75 FPS, that's pretty good to me. I'm not the most amazing Fortnite player anyway, so plenty for me, I guess. And, of course, you didn't expect everything to run, did you? Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it's not gonna run. This is a DirectX 11 maximum card, and any game that requires DirectX 12 is just not gonna work, unfortunately. You gotta expect some trade-offs with a 110 GPU from AliExpress, I guess. Alright, so back to the $1 million question. Well, the $110 question, I guess. Should you buy a used 750 Ti from China? Or any graphics card from China? Well, as we proved today, it works just fine. Lots of people might, speculate that the life of the card would be significantly reduced because it's already been used a bunch before you bought it. And I might agree with them. For more powerful cards that run hotter and consume much more power. But for a lower end card like this, it's very power efficient for the performance you're getting, so I personally wouldn't worry about the card up and dying tomorrow or anything with normal use. That said, it's obviously a possibility when buying any used GPU. It's a gamble I'm comfortable taking, but only you can decide if it's worth it for you. What we can say for sure is that we're getting a lot more performance per dollar going with something like this than we are with going with a new lower end card like a GT 1030 or an RX 550. And while you are going to miss out on a few games that require DirectX 12, for the most part you'll find that this little guy can handle the games you'll throw at it with performance that makes it a great value for the price. And in my opinion, buying a used GPU is an excellent way to get your hands on a great budget GPU for your budget build. So, buying a 750 Ti, or I don't know, a 950 or something from AliExpress gets a big Tech the Weeb thumbs up and 4 out of 5 cans of strange energy drinks from a Chinese internet cafe. And that brings us to the end of the video. Please let me know in the comments below. Do you agree that buying used GPUs from China is a good idea? Have you had any bad experiences? I'd love to hear from you down there. And while you're down there, give me a thumbs up if you like the video, or a thumbs down if you hate orange graphics cards from China. Subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. I'm Tech Dweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.